report comes to you from the Government Weather Bureau. We now take you to the Meridian Room in the Hotel Park Plaza in downtown New York, where you will be entertained by the music of Ramon Raquello and his orchestra.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. From the Meridian Room in the Park Plaza in New York City, we bring you the music of Ramon Raquello and his orchestra. With a touch of Spanish, Ramon Raquello leads off with La Comparsa. What?
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt our program of dance music to bring you a special bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News. At 20 minutes before 8 Central Time, Professor Farrell of the Mount Jennings Observatory, Chicago, Illinois, reports observing several explosions of incandescent gas occurring at regular intervals. Sorry. It's on the planet Mars. The spectroscope indicates the gas to be of hydrogen and moving towards the Earth with enormous velocity.
I would say so.
Professor Pearson of the observatory at Princeton confirms Farrell's observation and describes the phenomenon as, quote, like a jet of blue flame shot from a gun. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Apparently airline food. We now return you to the music of Ramon Raquello, playing for you in the Meridian Room of the Park Plaza Hotel, situated in downtown New York.
The ever-popular Stardust. Ramon Raquello and his orchestra. They all sound the same.
Ladies and gentlemen, following on the news given in our bulletin a moment ago, the Government Meteorological Bureau has requested the large observatories of the country to keep an astrological watch on any further disturbances occurring on the planet of Mars. Due to the unusual nature of this occurrence, we have arranged an interview with noted astronomer Professor Pearson, who will give us his views on the event. In a few moments, we will take you to the Princeton Observatory at Princeton, New Jersey. We return you until then to the music of Ramon Raquello and his orchestra. We are now ready to take you to the Princeton Observatory at Princeton, where Carl Phillips, or commentator, will interview Professor Richard Pearson, famous astronomer. We take you now to Princeton, New Jersey. Jersey.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Carl Phillips speaking to you from the observatory at Princeton. I am standing in a large semicircle room, pitch black except for a long split in the ceiling. Through this opening, I can see a sprinkling of stars that cast a kind of frosty glow over the intricate mechanism of the huge telescope. The ticking sound that you hear is the vibration of the clockwork. Professor Pearson stands directly above me on a small platform, peering through a large, giant lens. I ask you to be patient, ladies and gentlemen, during any delay that may arise during our interview. Besides the ceaseless watch of the heavens, Professor Pearson may be interrupted by telephone, or other communications. During this period, he is in constant touch with the astronomical centers of the world. Professor, may I begin our questions?
At any time, Mr. Phillips.
Professor, would you please tell our radio audience exactly what you see as you observe the planet Mars through your telescope?
Well, nothing unusual at the moment, Mr. Phillips. A red disk swimming in a blue sea. Transverse stripes across the disk. Quite distinct now because Mars happens to be the point nearest the Earth, in opposition, as we call it.
In your opinion, what do these transverse stripes signify, Professor Pearson?
Well, not canals, I can assure you, Mr. Phillips. Although that's the popular conjecture of those who imagine Mars to be inhabited. From a scientific viewpoint, the stripes are merely the result of atmospheric conditions peculiar to the planet.
Then you're quite convinced as a scientist that living intelligence, as we know it, does not exist on Mars.
I'd say the chances are against it 1,000 to 1.
And yet, how do you account for those gas eruptions occurring on the surface of the planet?
It's a rather personal question, isn't it? Mr. Phillips, I can't account.
By the way, Professor, for the benefit of our listeners, how far is Mars from Earth?
Approximately 40 million miles.
Holy crap. That seems a safe enough distance.
Keeps going.
Still
Still
alive.
here.
My bad.
Just a moment, ladies and gentlemen. Someone has just handed Professor Pearson a message. While he reads it, let me remind you that we are speaking to you from an observatory in Princeton, New Jersey, where we are interviewing the world-famous astronomer, Professor Pearson. One moment, please. Professor Pearson has passed me a message which he's just received. Professor, may I read the message to the listening audience?
Certainly, Mr. Phillips.
Ladies and gentlemen, I shall read you a wired address to Professor Pearson from Dr. Gray of the National History Museum, New York. 9:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Seismograph registered shock to almost earthquake intensity occurring within I can't read.
No wonder the studios hated Orson Welles. And we're professionals.
Registered as a shock of almost earthquake intensity occurring within a radius of 20 miles of Princeton. Please investigate. Signed, Lloyd Gray, Chief of Astronomical Division. Professor Pearson, could this occurrence possibly have something to do with the disturbance observed on the planet Mars?
Hardly, Mr. Phillips. Probably a meteorite of unusual size, and its arrival at this particular time is merely a coincidence. However, we shall conduct a search as soon as daylight permits.
Thank you, Professor. Ladies and gentlemen, for the past 10 minutes, we've been speaking to you from the observatory at Princeton. Why does he keep saying this? Bringing you a special interview with Professor Pearson, noted astronomer. This is Carl Phillips speaking. We are returning you now to our New York studio.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is the latest bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News. Toronto, Canada. Professor Morse of McGill University reports observing a total of 3 explosions on the planet Mars between the hours of 7:45 p.m. and 9:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This confirms earlier reports received from American observatories. Now, nearer home comes a special announcement from Trenton, New Jersey. It is reported that at 8:50 p.m., a huge flaming object, believed to be a meteorite, fell on a farm in the neighborhood of Grover's Mills, New Jersey, 22 miles from Trenton. The flash in the sky was visible within a radius of several hundred miles, and the noise of the impact was heard as far north as Elizabeth. We have dispatched a special mobile unit to the scene, and will have our commander, Carl Phillips, give you a word description as soon as he can reach there from Princeton. In the meantime, we take you to the Hotel Martinette in Brooklyn, where Bobby Millett and his orchestra are still playing that stupid song. We now take you to Grover's Mill, New Jersey.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Carl Phillips again, at the Wilmouth Farm, Grover's Mill, New Jersey. Professor Pearson and myself have made the 11 miles from Princeton in 10 minutes. Well, I hardly know where to begin. To paint for you a word picture of the strange scene before my eyes, like something out of a modern Arabian Nights. Well, I just got here. I haven't had a chance to look around yet. I guess that's it. Yes, I guess that's the thing directly in front of me. Half buried in a vast pit, must have struck with terrible force. The ground is covered with splinters of a tree that might have struck down on its way down. What I can see of the object itself doesn't seem very much like a meteor, at least not the meteors I've seen. It looks more like a huge cylinder. It has a diameter of, what would you say, Professor Pearson? What's that? What would you say? What is the diameter?
About 30 yards.
About 30 yards. The metal in the sheath is, well, I've never seen anything like it. The color is sort of yellowish white. Curious spectators are now pressing close to the object in spite of the efforts of the police to keep them back. They're getting my mission. Would you mind standing on one side, please?
One side, there, one side.
The policeman, ma'am. Well, the policemen are pushing the crowd back. Here's Mr. Wilmot, owner of the farm here. He may have some interesting facts to add. Mr. Wilmot, would you please tell the radio audience as much as you remember of this rather unusual visitor that dropped in your backyard? Step closer, please. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Wilmot.
Well, I was listening to the radio.
Closer now, please.
sir?
Yes, sir. Well, I was listening to the radio and kind of drowsing. Professor Fellow was talking about Mars, so I was half dozing.
Yes, Mr. Wilmot. Then what happened?
As I was saying, I was listening to the radio kind of halfways.
Yes, Mr. Wilmot. And then you saw something?
Here, not first off, I heard something.
And what did you hear?
Well, I guess it sounded like this. Kind of like a 4th of July racket. Small.
Then what?
I turned my head out the window and swore I was to sleep and dreaming.
Did you just wake yourself up with your fart? Yes? Yes.
I seen a kind of greenish streak and then, zingo, something smacked the ground, knocked me clean out of my chair.
Well, were you frightened, Mr. Wilmot?
Well, I ain't quite sure. I reckon I was kind of riled.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Thank you.
Want me to tell you some more?
No, that's quite all right. That's fine. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Wilmot, owner of the farm where this thing has fallen. I wish I could convey the atmosphere. The background of this is fantastic scene. Hundreds of cars are parked in this field in the back of us. Police are trying to rope off the roadway leading to the farm. But it's no use. They're breaking right through. Cars' headlights throw an enormous spot in the pit where the object's half buried. Some of the more daring souls are now trying to venture near the edge. Their silhouettes stand out against the metal sheet. One man wants to touch the thing. He's having an argument with the policeman. The policeman wins. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's something I haven't mentioned to you all in this excitement, but now it's becoming much more distinct. Perhaps you've already caught it on your radio. Listen. It's a curious humming sound that seems to come from the inside of the object. I'll move the microphone here. Now we're no more than 25 feet away from it. Can you hear it now? Oh, Professor Pearson.
Yes, Mr. Phillips?
Can you tell us the meaning of the scraping noise inside the thing?
It's the unrolling of its surface.
I see. And do you still think it's a meteor, Professor?
I don't know what to think. The double casing is definitely extraterrestrial, not found on this Earth. Friction with the Earth's atmosphere usually tears holes in the meteorite. This thing is smooth and, as you can see, of cylindrical shape.
Just a minute. Something's happening. Ladies and gentlemen, this is terrific. This end of the thing is the beginning of flake. It's beginning to flake off. The top of the beginning is beginning to rotate like a screw. The thing must be hollow.
She's off.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was the most terrifying thing I've ever witnessed. Wait a minute. Someone's crawling out of the hollow top. Someone or something. I can see it peering out of the black hole, two luminescent. Are they eyes? It might be a face. It might be. Oh! Heavens! Something's wriggled out of the shadow like a gray snake. Okay. Now it's another one. And another. They look like tentacles to me.
So glad you pronounced that right.
They look like hentai to me. There, I can see the thing's body. It's large as a bear, and it glistens like wet leather. That face, it's ladies and gentlemen, it seems indescribable. I can hardly force myself to keep looking at it. The eyes are green, the eyes are black and gleam like a serpent. The mouth is V-shaped and saliva dripping from its rimless lips seem to quiver and pulsate. Monster or whatever. Oh, God.